I hate batch painting models. I know it's one of the quickest methods to get an army painted, and for some people seeing a whole squad of minis coming together at the same time is really rewarding. But for me, personally, I find it the most tedious way to paint models. So today I'm going to try and batch paint these Tomb King models for Blood Bowl to see if I can finally enjoy the process. I'm going to apologise for any croaky voice or anything in this video. Unfortunately, right before I started recording the voiceover, I've come down with a sore throat. So I apologise, but please bear with me. And now, back to the video. I've already painted one of the models for last week's video, and so I'm using this as a paint guide for the rest. As the models are all so similar, they are ideal for batch painting because each model will be the same steps with a few minor differences and details at the end, if I get that far. I'm starting off by applying the Ushabti bone to all of the bones on the models. Batch painting is a technique to paint lots of similar models at the same time by painting each colour to all of the models before moving on to the next colour. This eliminates the need to wait for colours to dry, because by the time you paint the last model, the first one is ready for its next colour. It's also good when lots of dry brushing is involved, as you can quickly get through a lot of models very fast. I just find it tedious though. I can happily paint individual models for hours, focusing on the details and getting the best highlights I can, but just painting a single colour for what seems like an eternity really starts to grind on me. I have batch painted an army in the past, my Necrons from the 9th edition starter box, because I had a method that allowed for really quick and easy painting. So by working in groups of about 5 models at a time, I could get through them. But batches of any larger than 5, I really struggle with motivation to keep on going, so it will be interesting to see how far I can get with these Tomb Kings before getting frustrated at the lack of progress. With the introduction of contrast and speed paints, batch painting has become a bit less tedious than it used to be, although to get the best results from these paints, it's moved a lot of the work to pre-painting stages rather than lots of highlights. Now the tedium is in dry brushing a load of models lots of times to get the gradient for the zenithal highlight, but the actual painting isn't as bad as long as you don't mind that final look that comes from using a lot of contrast paints. As I'm continuing my work through the stages of this Blood Bowl team, they are progressing pretty well. By starting off painting the skeletons, I'm getting the large areas of the models painted quickly. But there I can already see one of the problems I find with batch painting starting to appear. The quality drop compared to painting an individual model, and inconsistencies in quality across the models. When painting a single model, it's easy to check if the layers have given a full coverage and make sure that shade paints haven't pulled too heavily. But with this many models, going back and checking each one is a real pain. If I'm batch painting for a commission, I will always make sure that I'm getting the best possible results. But for my own models, I just want to keep on going. Endlessly going back and applying touch-ups to all of these is just such a chore, but when it's just a single model, it only takes a few seconds to tidy up. The dry brushing on the bone really shows the differences in this quality. When I was applying the dry brush in the single miniature, I could slowly build up the colour, adding more and more colour in areas that I felt weren't bright enough, and really focusing on making sure that I get the result that I wanted. But when looking at so many models, I just want to brighten them up, get that result that's good enough, and move on. Oddly enough, it seems like you need more patience when it comes to batch painting than you do for painting individual models. And maybe that's my biggest problem when it comes to batch painting. When I'm painting a single miniature, it always feels like I'm making progress. Each step only takes me a few minutes to complete, and then I can move on to the next. But sometimes with batch painting, especially if I'm working on a large area across a lot of models, it can take 30 minutes or even an hour just to paint a single colour. Smaller batches would obviously help with this problem, but the smaller the batch of models, the more batches you have to do, which creates its own motivational problem down the line. Please let me know in the comments, how many models do you think is the perfect batch size? I personally think it's about 5 models, but I would be interested to know how many you all think. As I'm continuing to slog away at these Tomb Kings, the motivation is beginning to drain from me. It's been a couple of hours and I'm starting to get annoyed with how slow the progress is. With a single model now, I would probably be starting to get to the final finishing touches and highlights, but with all of these, I'm still applying base coats. I know it's a mental perception because this method will paint all of those models quicker than me doing them one at a time, but it feels like it would be quicker to just paint them individually. Maybe this is one of the main reasons that I avoid batch painting. Painting is supposed to be a hobby, it should be fun, and if you're not enjoying it, then why are you doing it? We all get so little free time to just do something we enjoy. Why waste it doing something that feels like a chore? Especially ultimately when all you're doing is making some gaming pieces look a little bit more pretty and colourful. I normally really enjoy painting. I even really like painting fabric and clothing, which a lot of people find tedious. But I find a real pleasure in slowly adding layers and mixing in colours to get a nice gradient on a character's clothing, adding selected highlights to bring out all of the creases and folds, and making sure that the shadows are in just the right place in all the deepest areas. Luckily, these Tomb Kings don't have a lot of fabric on them, because the idea of having to mix and blend over and over and over again across these models fills me with dread. I was thinking about batch painting the Bretonians, but doing them all with a 2-coloured uniform, half black, half red, was just too much for me. So I think I'm going to have to paint all of them as individual models, which is fine, especially as there are so many trinkets and small details on those models. If I was trying to batch paint them, I know I would miss a load as well. Working through this batch painting has made me think of another method of painting I've seen people talk about online that I don't do, or don't even really understand for that matter. Painting the model when they're still on the sprue. If you like this method, let me know why in the comments, and also let me know if you'd like to see me give it a try, to see if I can understand it, and maybe even unlock a new way of painting that I should let more people know about. I'm starting to get to the last of the base layers now, picking out all of the fabric on the model as well as the straps. Working on these areas needs to be a bit slower, as I have to make sure I don't paint over any of the other details, and I just get the paint where I want it. It's a nice feeling to finally feel like I'm getting somewhere and the models are starting to look something like I want, although there are still quite a few steps left to go until they're finished. But at the very least, I can get these models to a basic tabletop standard in a single session, which is some level of achievement. The final base coats, like the belt and straps, is slow going, as they are small details and I'm trying to be as careful as possible to not paint over any of the other details because I just want this job to be done. I'm getting on to almost 6 hours now since I started painting, and it's good that I can see some progress, but I don't really feel like 6 hours worth of painting on these models has been done. I'm applying the final shade to all of the base coated areas now, and that will be me done for now. After this shade, at least the models will be playable, and I'll see if I can get motivated to come back and batch paint the details, like the colours on the armour, which these models really do need, as well as some basic highlights on the fabric and other details. I'm sure if I did more batch painting, I would become quicker and stay more motivated. Perhaps also this batch should have been done as 2 separate batches rather than trying to do them all in one go, but this painting session hasn't won me over to batch painting. It's a quicker way to paint a lot of models, but at the same time it removes some of the fun and the creativity from painting, which is what I enjoy more than just getting models on the table. and this is the end result after roughly 6 hours. There's still a lot of work to do, and compared to the model I painted on its own, you can see the drastic quality and difference, although that won't be as much of a noticeable issue if the whole team had been batch painted at the same time, of course. Would you like to see me take on the mental challenge of batch painting the final details on these models? See if I can get a bit more motivated the second time around. Let me know in the comments below how you feel about batch painting, and if you struggle like I do, or if it's your preferred painting method. So thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and happy painting!